welcome to the Two Stewards Show. My name's Mark. I'm here with Brent.
Hello, everybody.
And today we have a very special guest. His name is Landon Wilkinson. He is the co-founder or founder?
It's a tough distinction to make. I'll go with co-founder just to keep my brother happy.
Yeah, the important word is founder.
Yeah, that's right. He founded it. Of Hostshare, which is a really cool company that I came across a while ago. And it's related to short-term rentals and sharing your short-term rentals. So if you have a short-term rental, this is a great way to get some extra travel nights. Like if you like to travel, and I mean, most short-term rental hosts also like to travel. And this is a great way to get free travel nights out of the vacant nights on your own property. So we'll get into it. Landon will probably be able to explain it a lot better than I can. But thanks for being on with us today, Landon.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. This is I'm excited to talk about all the subjects here. It's kind of nice when you start something like this, you get the opportunity to learn. It's kind of like, if you want to learn something, try to teach it. And at a certain level, if you want to really understand something, I think starting a business that is related helps quite a bit. So yeah, I've been really fortunate to get to learn a lot more than I did.
Except for when it comes to the economy, because we talk about the economy all the time. We still don't understand it. So.
Nobody does. That's the secret there.
I looked at the U.S. job reports this morning. I'm like, I don't know. I think there's more.
Mark, by the way, last podcast I called the interest rate decrease, and that came out 0.25%. I don't know, Landon, what happened in the States. They still haven't lowered the rates, but Canada, man.
You guys had a decrease, huh?
Well,
the only thing we're better at than the States is printing money, I think.
I don't know about that. Few people can rival us there.
No, we got you beat. We actually do. But so I think I owe you a coffee, Brent. But no, that's the thing. U.S. job reports came out this morning, and they were looking pretty strong. Sorry, Landon, this isn't related. But that just means, death to the Canadian dollar compared to U.S. So if you're planning on moving anything, I just talked to a couple of guys who want to invest in the States. Just emailed them like, move your Canadian dollars now because they're going to lose value soon. But
so we're going to talk to Landon about how to move there temporarily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cayman Islands, no.
We'll get tips on money laundering later. But so Landon, you mentioned you've off air, anyways. You've been in short-term rentals about 10 years, which is about the same amount of time that my wife and I have been as well. We're up in Canada. You're down in the States, but how did you get into short-term rentals?
I started doing couch surfing when I was I only did a couple times, I think, but I was a huge fan as soon as I understood what Airbnb was doing, because couch surfing is kind of the same problems as home exchange. I think home exchange predates Airbnb, and it's kind of the same problems you run into with couch surfing. It's like there's a lot of coordination issues. There's a lot of you're not dealing with professional hosts on most exchange platforms. So when Airbnb came out, it was kind of a light going off like, okay, you can realistically share a property with others, get paid, for it, but then also still have use of it. And, a second home can be paid for by guests and they get to enjoy it and I get to use it when I want to. And so all these things. But we started, I think, our first listing, we moved out of a house and then started renting that out. And then I was doing a lot of construction. When I was 17, I started a painting company to pay for a band that we were in that would do touring in colleges and stuff. So you could buy a van and have the van be, a painting van during the week and a gig rig during the weekend.
Is this around the same time you were couch surfing?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So it was a transition period of my life, I guess you could say. But basically, I really came to appreciate Airbnb early on, and we had, let's see here. So kind of ended up getting into more multifamily from, we started house flipping, got into multifamily fairly soon after that. I raised some funds and then bought a couple hundred apartment units in Oklahoma. And some of those we had Airbnb listings. where we would, we'd take like a model unit at our property, and I would go down there and stay in the model unit and rent it out when I wasn't there. And so it's just been kind of a side part of my life for quite a while. And then when I sold out of my multifamily properties in 2021, I bought a home in Missoula, Montana, and turned that into a short-term rental. Split the levels so that we could rent the top and the bottom separately, or as the whole house. There's actually 3 listings for the same house, but it was nice because then we could kind of take advantage of it. If the top was booked, we could go stay in the bottom, or whatever was really available. And then I put in, I did 2 projects on my property where I made basically an ADU out of a 100-year-old barn, basically converted into a cool, little unit. And then we did a shipping container home on our property as well. So those are all projects that were more passion driven. I really just, like doing creative construction projects, with our team. But renting those out now for several years, and then kind of through that's what led, looking out the window and seeing no cars at your property for the night. You're like, I wouldn't have cared if somebody used it last night, if there was a structure in place for an exchange that made sense. And so, but there was a lot that led to the founding of Hostshare that, was all around asset sharing economy kind of dynamics and thinking that, so it's multifaceted approach that got us to Hostshare for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You still have those units now, like you still rent them out. Okay.
Yep.
Are they listed on Hostshare?
They are. Yep. They are. Absolutely. Yep. No, didn't want to share my listings on Hostshare.
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate test, right? Yeah.
No, I've had to use Hostshare now. I think I'm the second most traveled Hostshare person right now, and I'm following quick, because what happens with people usually when they sign up is they go, like, they're kind of skeptical at first, and they use it once, and then it becomes a habit that, like, what our trend has been, most people are traveling within like 3 weeks of their first trip, and then so they're back. I mean, we just had somebody book their third one yesterday, and it was like, it's only been live for like 2 months, so you're kind of like, people are doing a lot of traveling that they just otherwise wouldn't have done because it's so economical, and that's really fun to see.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about Hostshare. How does it work? What is it? I was also a little bit skeptical when I saw it. I think, well, I'll sign up and we'll see what, is this just a big scam?
Yep. Big pyramid scheme. No, it's funny because a lot of people just don't, realize the size of the problem. I think or the size of the opportunity is really what it is, because if you look, there's 6 million Airbnbs. The average occupancy is around 55%, but let's say 50% for simple numbers. That's 3 million homes in the world that are just sitting year round, right? And there's $317-ish average nightly rate that they carry across the whole platform. So it's a $330 billion missed opportunity each year. So when you go and stay at somebody's property on Hostshare, the way it works is you basically it's different than if you're familiar with Home Exchange or your Third Home or any of the other exchanges. They carry the way it typically works is you're going to put your home up, you're going to have people come and stay at your place, and you're going to earn credit. So in the form of keys on like Third Home, you earn keys as credits. On Kindred, you can, I can't remember the currency, but it's the same thing. You're just, it's almost a night for night. You get some credit for people staying. And I always say it's kind of like if you're playing a game of Monopoly, you get currency to start the game with, so that everybody starts off and you can start playing and buying stuff. Well, in the exchange world, it's kind of a problem, because it's like everybody shows up to the Monopoly game and doesn't have currency or enough currency to really make it worthwhile. Because what ends up happening is people want to share, but there's not enough credit around to have people come and stay. And so it's kind of this, interesting chicken and egg problem, where in Hostshares, what happens when you sign up is you get 21 nights for each listing that you add. So as soon as you go live with your listing, you can go out and stay places, any of the homes on the platform you can travel to if they're available within a 5-day booking window. And so, So it's kind of nice because there's no waiting to travel when you sign up for Hostshare. You basically agree to our share pledge, which is I'm not going to abuse the system. I'm going to keep my listing on until I share my maximum number of nights, which is a calculation that we have, which basically establishes what your contribution is relative to everybody else. So we keep it fair by basically giving a constant number of nights out, but then everybody shares a number of nights dependent on their ADR. So if your place is like $1,000 a night, you're going to share maybe like 8 nights a year. If it's $100 a night, it'll be between 30 and 40 nights a year, if it's available within that 5-day booking window.
Mark, at first I thought this sounded like fractional reserve banking.
There's only the opportunity to do that.
You put your one unit up there and you get 21 nights. And but I can see, okay, so you got to commit to a certain number of.
That's very insightful, though. I mean, it is possible that somebody could do a similar platform and make it much more currency flush, I guess you could say. Yeah. We kept it. We have a margin in there of about 30% of nights that'll never get used, just as a way to further make availability on the platform so people can travel. But it's baked into where if everybody on the platform used all of their nights that they're allowed to, we'd still have a 30% reserve of extra nights. So it's kind of a backstop, if you will.
Yeah. So you're still on the gold standard now.
We still are, yes. Yeah, until I get kicked out as founder or whatever. Yeah. Once we get bought by private equity, you got to watch out then.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's
they'll take our.
So I love the idea, and we've signed up. We haven't used it yet, or hosted yet either. You talk about the I can't remember now. You said $3 billion problem or missed opportunity, I guess, right? All those nights.
330.
And so for someone, sorry. Yeah, so
it's
for someone using
$330 billion problem.
Oh, okay, I was a little bit off.
But for most people doing, if it's 330 billion.
No, for most people doing vacation rentals, you don't have 100% or even 80% occupancy. We do a lot of urban rentals and midterm and stuff, so we're probably closer to that 80-85% occupancy range. But for people
That's
listening.
Impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I should check the numbers. That's just off the top of my
95,
head. Right?
That sounds even better.
Yeah, 95. Yeah, that's a little ridiculous.
Call Mark
No, but it's different, right? From vacation rental to sort of urban rentals. This is a different market, different people.
Sure.
But yeah, there are those nights that like they will just never get booked, right? Especially if you're in depending on the market, it may be that Tuesday through Thursday just never get booked. Because that's not when people are in the area, and that's that's fine if you run your numbers to your pro forma and you understand that I can make my money on the weekends, then perfectly valid. But this is a beautiful way to take opportunity of those nights that previously were just kind of dead space, and maybe you do maintenance or mostly they just sit. Now you can actually use them, and if I'm traveling, I don't care, I'll stay. If I need a place to stay Tuesday to Thursday, why not stay in a nicer place that's maybe a little bit outside the city I'm in, as opposed to, a little shoebox in the city. So I'm looking forward to trying that for sure.
I mean, the thing too that I don't know if I didn't really clarify is that because there's such an abundance, it's like if everybody went through, like if you're picking an apple orchard and you literally left half of the apples on the tree, you're not going to miss like Hostshare is a drop in the bucket. If you look at the math, and we're going to put a blog post up soon because my brother and I were working on this on our way back yesterday, what the actual out of pocket cost is for Hostshare. If like the probability, because most people aren't going to be sharing all of the nights at their property. Just it's like a gym membership, even though, there's going to be not 100% utilization of all those nights on average. If you have a house it's the real upper end, you're only sharing a couple nights a year, then most likely that's going to get booked because it's the top opportunity, I guess you can say. And that's it's kind of nice thing about Hostshare is because it's that last minute only, it kind of levels the playing field. So the nicest homes don't get booked in advance. You don't have this, and they're sharing less nights too. So it's an interesting, it's kind of solving the communism problem with that a little bit. And so yeah, I guess, what was I going to say? You were talking about the urban rentals versus
if you're what you were going to say, but I kind of want you to elaborate on the communism thing.
Yeah, here we go. Are there cows involved in this example?
A what?
Are there cows involved? Usually it's like, I have 5 cows and you want 1 cow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing because like if you're doing home exchange or another one where it's a primary or secondary residence, how do you establish a fair nightly value and give credits for that? It's super easy for Hostshare because we pull your listing, we pull your daily rate from the listing the day that you sign up. And if it's too low, we can adjust that based on if you give us a screenshot of your insights page showing your ADR for the last 12 months. So it's really fair, and it's checked. It's a professional operation that has reviews. So we're holding a standard of stay. If somebody's not, like on home exchange, for instance, if somebody can decline as many requests as they want because they're not needing keys or they don't need credit or whatever. So what ends up happening for the traveler is you go to travel and it's request, deny. And Hostshare, if you have nights available and they're unbooked within that 5-day window, the expectation is that you're sharing up to your number of nights. If you don't, it's like declining a reservation on Airbnb. It becomes a problem for access to the platform. So there's a high degree of trust that when you go to book, you're actually going to be able to use it. And so even if we have a fraction of the listings that Home Exchange has, by the time you add up, 50% occupancy rate, which is half of the year, and the incentive structure to accept bookings, it ends up being like probably a 20 to 30x utility factor on a Hostshare property relative to like a home exchange where it's a primary residence. They only are going to be gone a couple weeks a year. They got to remember to open up the calendar during that time. And, it just really limits the access that you can actually use, even though they have 100,000 plus listings. I've never been able to use it because it's just like, just the stars don't align.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I love the model that you have. There's a third party, right? Which is you, sort of trusted intermediary. So I don't have to worry about making a deal with this person or that person and making sure stuff exactly like you guys take care of all that, which is, the same reason we use Airbnb, right? I'm sure we could have our own sort of platform and do what people did before Airbnb was around for vacation rentals, but it just makes it so much easier, and you just take all the legwork out of it. So, how long have you been working on Hostshare?
So we came up with the concept in April of last year, and enlisted our partners, who is my brother-in-law and his business partner, who have built multiple SaaS products. And so they came on, took equity in the company, and we basically built it with them from probably May till I think we launched in February. Technically, was when we launched travel. So yeah, it worked out really nice. I mean, we kind of started down the road of outsourcing development, offshore development teams, stuff like that, and realized, we need that core competency within our team, or else we're gonna spin our wheels a lot here. And
is this something that you see like Airbnb being a competitor to, like taking this concept and then just using their network and their marketing to internalize
certainly it? It's a really good point. And there's one that before we even started building it was a question of like, okay, are we just going to get snuffed out by a bigger competitor? The problem for an Airbnb, I would say it would be a huge concern, A, if they weren't public, B, if their commissions weren't so high. So there's those two things pushing them. Hostshare is not going to make them much money. If they transition to allowing hosts to do this, it's going to be a host satisfaction and a PR move, but it'll come at the expense of a lot of commissions. And that's a quick way to get killed as a CEO of a public company is that 20% plus commission structure that they have is what makes $100 billion plus valuation possible. As soon as they I mean, and their number one competitor is Airbnb right now, is Superhost doing direct bookings because they can't, stomach the 20% commission when, they're ultimately doing all of the work, so it's one of those things that, like, if Brian Chesky was privately operating and could make unilateral decisions like that without fear for his job, I'd be more concerned. I don't think he's going to. I think he probably should steal our idea and crush us, but I don't think it's likely.
So if he's listening,
yeah.
Well, hopefully it makes an offer rather than just crushing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, an acquisition makes a lot more sense because then they can kind of keep it at arm's length, more or less. And if it grows really big, then it's just another, revenue source that they wouldn't have been privy to or have access to. So,
yeah. Actually, Brent, that was a more insightful question than maybe you realize, because Airbnb has a history of doing this, right? Of finding sort of the smaller operators, the value add type of operators, and then either developing their own thing or just buying them and kind of folding them in, right? So there's always more, like lock integration. That's just a simple example, but that's something that you could only do with sort of third-party software, where you could automatically have the your smart locks integrate with the platform. So like if you book, automatically the lock code changes to the last 4 digits of your phone number, and then it's only accessible like at check-in time, not before. So Airbnb is now starting to offer this kind of integration. So it really sucks for people who came up with that and aren't getting paid for it now. But that's just one example. But yeah, that's why I got Brent around for the sort of insightful questions.
Well, I want to learn more about how it works, but I'm also curious about the business model. So, like, how do you guys make money?
Yeah,
it's just
because from the average person looking at this, it's like, well, I just go on here, I put my stuff in for free, and then like, where does the money come?
We have a annual membership fee. Okay. So we charge $395 a year, and the average value that people are getting when they use their travel is around $6,000. It's going to be, let's see. So if you're comparing it to any of the other home exchange platforms, we're probably like a third of the cost. But we don't charge any nightly commissions. We don't charge anything except that one management fee. Or membership fee. Yeah.
And then like a customer or a host who signs up would pay like cleaning fees or something like that.
The guests pay cleaning fees. That's the only fee when you travel is going to be the cleaning fee.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Which is, so that's curious. For what do you, I should probably know this since I signed up, but how do you, where are you pulling the cleaning fee from? Because some people are playing with like, I'm going to charge a management fee, not a cleaning fee in order, are you just pulling whatever cleaning fee they have? And if it
pulls their cleaning fee in from Airbnb, if they want to adjust it, we have a formula relative to their average nightly rate that allows them a certain degree of latitude, but not, you can't charge an equivalent of an ADR for the cleaning or something like that,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it depends, right? It depends on your ADR.
I guess no. That's not a good example. It'd be they can't be trying to offset their ADR using a cleaning fee or what they would have made in a night. Equivalent. So I apologize. Yeah, that wasn't clear.
Yeah. So ADR for listeners, average daily rate. Excuse me. So basically, what you charge for a night's stay. I had another question too. When you're sort of figuring out the value of a property on the platform, so like when we listed, it was right during like low season. We used dynamic pricing, and so that's the lowest possible rates that you charge. Are you just looking at sort of the current ADR for when people apply, or are you using a pricing tool to look at over the year?
Yeah, I mean, so we eventually will have. We're building integrations with Lodgify and Hospitable, and eventually we'll have a large degree of the channel management systems or channel managers. And so an API integration would give us a lot more insight. It would be automatically controlling the ADR decision. right now we have to rely on basically what the rate is the day they sign up. And then if it's not accurate, they can request an adjustment using a screenshot of their insights page from Airbnb, which will show the ADR over the last 12-month period. So that's a fairly simple way. If they're unhappy that's too low, we're in the off season, but we do 3 times the rent during, spring break or whatever. That's a fairly easy way to make that fair.
Yeah, okay. But that won't change the number of nights you get, right? You said it's 21 nights when you sign up.
Correct. Yep.
Is what everybody gets across the board, and you kind of use your averaging power because you have like a whole bunch of listings. And so what it would change is how many nights you offer your place on the platform, whether that's 8 nights or 20 nights or whatever.
Exactly.
That's the idea. Okay. So now, can I, if I have 5 listings, can I sign up 5 times and get 105 nights?
So that's the beautiful thing. If you pay one membership fee and you can add, we encourage you to add as many listings as you can because the experience just gets better for everybody the more properties there are. And the dilution, because there's more nights being shared, is better. So it becomes just a really sweet deal. The more listings are added, you're going to probably share less nights at your own listings, or you're going to share less relative to the maximum number you're sharing. But yeah, if you have like 17 homes, like we've had a few people that sign up that have 17 or more homes, and you can travel full time and it'd be, just the cleaning fee and your one membership fee. So it's a hack for sure.
That's really cool. Because what do you need for 365
So you
nights?
don't need to pay rent or own a house.
If you look at you can only book 5 days in advance on Hostshare. So, you're going to be paying a lot in cleaning fees, but it's probably going to be less, especially if you go to smaller homes than it would be to own a house and live there for sure. It's going to be a pain to move around all the time. But
I know. I'm just thinking if you're a young, just starting out, you have a laptop job, you can go anywhere.
Yep, totally.
Well, you would still need to have like 15 listings. So,
yeah. Well, if you're a property manager, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So there's another one. What, which I have to talk to your team about, but you have a program for, I can't remember what you call it, a VRM or something for people who manage properties for others.
What's a VRM?
Vacation rental managers. Yeah. So it's really a partnership because if you're managing properties for people, typically your goals are, we want more listings and we want to make our owners happy so they don't pull their listings. And what Hostshare does is, and it really, when people get it as a management company, it really clicks because it's like, well, like for instance, one guy, Dennis from Cassiola, he manages a bunch of properties. I think he has a company that has 350 listings in Florida and Aruba. And he was saying, we get people who come on and they buy a rental near Disneyland and they're excited because their kids are young and they want to go use it when their kids are young for Disneyland. Well, 5 years later, 10 years later, their kids don't want to go to Disneyland. They want to go, where else? So they're like, well, should we sell the listing? We don't really use it anymore. Hostshare is basically a pretty hands-off way to continue. It's like, we like to say it's like traveling like you own 1,000 homes. And that's really the gist of it. It's like, for Dennis, who's the manager, it's kind of a no-brainer because now instead of their owner taking nights off the table that he would have earned a commission on, they might have the opportunity to go travel to other homes and they won't be at their own property complaining about whatever and taking commission away or whatever. But then at the same time, every Hostshare guest that comes to his property that he's managing is a potential acquisition opportunity for a new customer. So it's kind of a win-win for them because it's a marketing thing. And the relative cost of turnover and lost commission is probably about equal with what they would have had in owner stays. Even if it's a little more, the returns, ROI, and owner satisfaction and potential acquisition marketing is well worth it. And we also do offer basically a shared for every member that signs up. It's like an affiliate kickback for the first year's membership. So there's that too, but it's really usually about owner satisfaction.
Yeah, and this would be for anyone who manages properties for others. Like we have about 20 listings or so it's not huge, but whether you got 5 or 500, you can use this program.
that would be really, that we haven't built yet, but I'm really excited about, is the ability for the management company to participate in some of the free nights as well. As a co-host of the property, they should be entitled to some of those nights. Like we're thinking maybe like 3 out of the 21 could be given to the staff and owners of the PM, so that it ends up being further payment and service for turning over the house and all that stuff that they're not getting paid commission on. So yeah.
Sorry, not to kind of keep jumping around here, but so you post a unit to this platform, Hostshare. Does it have to be an Airbnb listing?
It does right now. We'll
so
eventually
you're tied to that platform, like Airbnb.
Yeah, VRBO will be eventually the next one, and then probably booking.com, where right now it's nice because you can just put in your Airbnb link and it'll scrape your whole listing, all of your, it's a lot of people, it's funny, I don't know if people ripped us off or just had the same idea shortly after us, but we were the only ones doing this like in February, and I was adding a listing to booking.com, and it was you had to go through the whole new listing setup. And then like 2 months, I guess last month they'd basically done the same thing we did, made a data fetcher that scrapes all of everything off the listing. So you don't have to add all of that manually with Hostshare.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem for booking.com and Vrbo for like any sort of third-party integration, right? Airbnb has there's all the tools for the data scraping for Airbnb, but not for
totally.
not for these other guys. So it's always a pain to integrate. And yeah, I just want to encourage you, if you could work on the hospitable integration first, okay. I would really appreciate that.
Good to know. They're actually key to the API. Hospitable has a sort of a sweetheart deal that they were one of the earliest API integrations with Airbnb, and so their ability to allow us access to the API as through them is really a huge breakthrough for us, because Airbnb's API is closed now, so you can't be like a new company like us and get access unless you have like a hospitable third party that's getting you in. So they will be probably the first, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. See, it's who you know. It's who you know. Hey, another question about the night. So it's 21 nights. Now, that's not restricted, I guess, by guest count or anything, is it? Like if I have a place where, you can host, I'm trying to think so we have one place in the States actually, and that's what's listed on the platform, which I think will take up to 8 people. But if I'm staying, whether I stay at a place that, can host 2 guests or 12 guests, there's no difference, right? A night is a night?
Yep, night is night. It's all relative to the monetary, economics of the nightly rate. So, we don't really go off of bedroom count or anything like that.
Yeah, okay, no, that's really cool, too, for guests as well, because now I can stay in somewhere that I might not have normally stayed.
Yeah, one couple just did a trip for their anniversary, and they were like, I think in Florida, and they flew to Washington because there was a beautiful large home that was available. And when those homes that are $2,000 a night join, they only have like 4 nights a year that they're sharing. So you kind of gotta jump at those opportunities if they're available, or it might be worth it too, I guess is the way to say that.
So they paid for a flight last minute to zip over there just to stay at a really, really fancy house for free.
Visit Washington, but like they were on their anniversary. And so it was like, we've got the time. Let's, go somewhere we hadn't been before, and stay in a mansion.
Hey,
so this whole concept is a no-brainer for people who have Airbnbs. Like at this point, it's just Airbnbs.
If you travel at all.
And if you travel...
Yeah, it really doesn't. There's really no, like, if you use it 2 nights a year, it pays for its membership, and you have another 19 to go. And it's crazy if like in that example, if you're opportunistic with the use of it, it can easily be a $20,000 saving. Yeah, and you're traveling, just to some incredible homes. Like we've done it 7. I think I've been on 7 trips now, and what I do now, and I don't think it's because I'm one of the founders, it's really because I'm cheap, is like I just always check where I'm going and see if there's anything available. And if there's not, I don't, there's always Airbnb, there's always hotels. So it makes a lot of sense to wait till that last minute and see if there's something that's going to be free. And often they're just, the home quality is not like, you're not dealing with like $70 a night properties. The average is $300 or $250 a night on Hostshare. So you're in good company. It's not like, couch surfing.
Well, yeah, because those aren't the people who are going to be excited to. Well, number one, you're going to pay that. You're going to pay the subscription fee. So if you're doing a $50 a night room share, you're totally probably not interested in doing that, and you're probably not doing a ton of traveling anyways. What's that?
And you'd wind up having to share a lot of nights. If your place is $50 a night, you're up in the upper 40s maybe in terms of what you have to share, and that might be more than you can afford to give up. So it kind of weeds out very low end, and we peak at about 2,500 because then it gets down to like 1 or 2 nights. So it keeps that average really nice.
So what happens to the nights that are not used? Is it reset yearly? So let's say I've got 30 nights available. People use 20 at the end of the year, like boom, they're gone. So it doesn't accumulate. So I don't have
travel, Mark.
400 nights of my place that's available.
Yeah, no, correct. It's just it renews annually, so it's.
Can Mark share his extra nights with me?
So
you have to go with me.
You'd have to be with him, or you could create. What we'll do if you're co-hosting with somebody, you can share nights between two.
Right.
Two members. You'll have separate membership fees that you're paying. But if you're like, I only want to use 11 of my nights a year, and somebody else can take 10, they can pay a separate fee and be a co-host with your property too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's like a lot of husbands and wives will want to do that kind of a thing because they'll have 3 listings and they, want to do different trips and stuff. So,
interesting. I don't know if my wife would appreciate that if I went on a different trip than her, but
or like for me, business. I'm on a lot of business trips, so it ends up being that. But
yeah, okay. No, we were. I was talking to Brent about this. There's a Bitcoin conference in July in Tennessee that we're looking at. So I'm like, this would be a really cool way to save on accommodations, right?
Yeah, Tennessee is going to be probably a pretty safe bet for finding a place. Tennessee, Florida. We have a fair bit in Washington, but you can't think of it like I'm going to replace Airbnb right now with Hostshare. Eventually, it should be pretty easy to always find a Hostshare. At the rate of growth we're at, it should, a year or two, it'll be a lot more easy to go anywhere and use it. Especially we're working on some integrations with some people in Europe. And so far, our advertising, the little that we've done testing in Europe has been about a 10x improvement on ROI for advertising there. So I think there's a lot more just culturally in the UK and Europe that's going to be really open to this and hopefully grows fast as a result. There's just so many short-term rentals there too in a small geographic area that it makes a lot of sense if you own one. And if you're in Greece, you want to go to Germany, it's a good example, like Paris to England or, these kinds of things. They're very realistic Hostshare trips. And our hope selfishly is that we can use Hostshare when we go overseas as well a lot more, because I think that's something all of our founders and the team are really, motivated on.
Can we do that now? Actually, can I go to Europe?
You can, yeah.
It's just
sparse though. Yeah, it's just really sparse. And so like one of the integrations we're working on, even just as of yesterday, would allow us to market to like, people with 40,000 listings on their OTA, which is, that would be such a nice critical mass. You would have no doubt you could find a place to stay if you're over there. Most people are like, well, I need to know where I'm going to stay. It's like, well, why? If you know you're going to have a selection, it's like, why do you need to know which listing it is? Unless you have to be somewhere at a specific time. It's such a tax on you to have that assurance. Most people are going to realize I can be a little flexible on what it is exactly, so that I can do like 3 times the travel a year.
Do you have data on like how many Airbnb bookings right now are made by hosts?
I don't,
like,
and
they would have that information, but because if Hostshare takes off, I feel like all the hosts are going to wait till the last minute to book. Then Airbnb is going to
eventually
that
figure
would
it
be
out.
so nice to know. I mean, I think they would not want to just give me that information. But
I suspect it would be fairly high because they're into it, right? Like they see the value of it and they're familiar with the platform.
Nice if you're a host, and I've realized this now, I've used a lot more Airbnbs in the last year because of Hostshare, and it's like I get inspired every time I go because I'm learning, like, oh, this is cool that they're offering this, or that, this is something that I didn't like that I'm happy I'm doing. Or it's a really good axe sharpening experience to go product test other people's stuff, basically. And so yeah, it's a write-off too,
Yeah.
So okay, yeah. Here's a thought. I don't know if you have an answer for this, but pardon me.
At least you had a thought, Mark. That's good.
Yeah, that's once a day. Anyways, a lot of people will complain about other hosts, and I've noticed this too. Like if you get a guest that is a host somewhere else, like there's a good chance they're going to be a real pain in the butt. And I've stopped when I travel. I've stopped telling people, "Hey, I'm also an Airbnb host," because I don't want people to be like, "Oh, I don't know." So, I don't know if you have an answer for that, but
people have brought that up a number of times. I've definitely experienced that. I will say that we're really careful culturally on Hostshare to make sure that people are a good fit. And most people who are attracted to something like Hostshare are not difficult people. They're usually pretty easygoing, and more, if they're open-minded to something like Hostshare, they're probably it's terrible, but it's kind of like I don't know if you guys are iPhone users, but if you have an iPhone and somebody texts you on a phone that's an Android or something and it shows up as a green bubble, it's like it's a different culture. Like people who don't use iPhones are, and I'm not trying to bag on anything. I'm just making the point that people who are open-minded to traveling on Hostshare typically aren't going to be the people that are the really difficult guests and hosts. And if they are, we try to weed that out really quickly because it's such a trust-based platform that if you screw that up, then it hurts everybody in a big way. So that's critical to the operation to weed that stuff out quickly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay.
Because membership is a privilege. It's not like a public access, and so if they don't, it's it's not like, I think the ratio on Airbnb is, I don't know, they have hundreds of millions of travelers and 6 million hosts. So the ratio is you can't weed out the public like you can weed out on a membership based platform, and so it keeps the experience really, really nice in that sense. It's like we're all understanding how this works, and if you don't get it, then no problem, but you can't continue, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess if you're willing to be able to travel on 5 days, or at least to book your stay on 5 days notice, then that's a specific kind of person. Yeah. If you're obsessing over every little detail, you have to have it planned out a month ahead. Well, this ain't for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you guys grow this? Because I'm guessing as a host, let's say I was a host and this kind of appealed to me. I'm an easygoing person. I got some listings. I want to take advantage of free travel or the opportunity to, I can see the benefit of having a stronger network, having more hosts, having more options, having more availability in the city I'm going to, and then just makes it a better experience for everyone. So how do you guys grow this or expand? Is that kind of why you're on our show, to just reach all the listener here?
Yeah. I mean,
both of them.
So I think one thing that my brother and I talked on the way home about this yesterday is it's like we were a really good example of like the typical Airbnb host before we started working on Hostshare. We weren't listening to the podcast. We weren't engaged in any of the communities, which there is a fairly large community around hosting, but most people are pretty lone gun, lone rangers doing their own thing. And so it becomes this question. The reason Airbnb grew so fast, if you study their history, was basically it was a reciprocal thing that would happen. A guest would come from Europe and they'd stay in New York and they'd say, oh, this guy's apartment is, I'm renting out. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to do one of these myself. And so that it grew. You had the right mix of things to grow. Hostshare is a little bit like having all guys at the party. We need a fair mix of some more travelers in there who can be perhaps non-hosts, but maybe co-hosts or friends and family that we can have that can join the community that are trusted. And so we're working on a structure. I know I was just talking about it's not general public, and that's certainly critical. But if we have a structure in place where it's a referral code, you have the ability to bring in a co-host who's involved to some degree with your listing, and you can increase the ratio of travelers to hosts on the platform, even by a margin of some kind, 15 to maybe 40%. Our growth rate is gonna start to mirror that. You're not going to have the explosive growth. Although I will say, Airbnb was carving a new path. Hostshare is just revealing a weakness in the system, and so there's possibility that it grows faster as a result of that. But I would say that the main thing is just mixing in more co-host travelers and others, people that aren't currently. We don't have a structure for it, so that's why it hasn't happened yet. But it's on the development list for sure.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because that's kind of how we got started. We heard about Airbnb years and years ago. And we thought, oh, let's just try it on this. We're doing a road trip, so we tried it, and we're like, this is incredible. Like traveling with a family with young kids. I don't think we've stayed in a hotel again, other than maybe the odd time I just travel with my wife. But like now we won't. If a place doesn't have an Airbnb, we're not going there.
Yeah.
But then what happened was we got home in our basement apartment. We're like, okay, let's get rid of this. Or the long-term renter was leaving, so like this is going to be an Airbnb, and that was the start of it for us. So that sort of organic adoption, I think, is that'll be. I don't know. I'm not a business guru, but I think that'll be key.
The other thing about that is that with we hear this a lot where people are like, I've thought about getting a second home, and I'm okay Airbnb-ing it, but I don't always have to go to the same home when I travel. So now, because of things like Hostshare, it makes sense to do that, and really you're just spreading that opportunity around, which is really nice. And I think,
because a lot of people will buy a property with the intention, like a vacation property with the intention of that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I like your Disney example, right? Like you might outgrow it. You might your preferences might change, but rather than doing a real estate transaction, incurring the cost or whatever, and
losing a good income, stream, that's a pain to set up. It's, if you're not trying to build a huge business, setting up an Airbnb is an exhausting.
Even just getting the cleaners, getting all this, the property management in place to make sure that it works. Calling Mark, dealing with him. I don't know.
Yeah, talking to Mark. Absolutely.
Difficult guy. Rather just call Landon. You could go anywhere for free.
That's right.
No, don't call him. Call me.
It's such a funny... Yeah.
So, Landon, are you able to share any numbers around how many hosts you have in in North America? I don't know if that's privileged information.
No, we have 2,000 plus. It's probably more like 2,500 now. It's been a while since I checked that number. And then you can whittle that down in terms of various stages of adding listings to live listings to people who are multiple people who share a listing type of a thing. So there's probably 1,000 listings in the U.S. specifically, and then you've got Canada and you've got Mexico that are online. And somebody added a listing in Sweden a couple days ago. So it's just if you want, they can see the map and they can decide if it's worth it to them to sign up or not. If they know they're going to go to the States, then sure, it makes sense. And somebody who's going to be going to Sweden might check and use it. And we really are going to be trying to build critical mass in all those markets as quickly as we can. But in the meantime, it's a lot of people are coming to the States anyways. And so then it makes sense for them.
Yeah, because I've noticed when I looked, just kind of looking at potential trips, it was like, oh, there's a fair amount of listings that are pending. They're not there yet, but they're live soon. I can't remember what it says, something like that, right? Live soon.
Yeah, coming soon. Somebody who's gotten started and hasn't quite finished some degree. And I think what is happening in a lot of cases is they realize what it is. They realize they're going to use it. And then they're waiting till they're taking their trip to finish going live. Because it's you don't really want to start your 12-month. The thought is for a lot of people, I'm not going to start my 12-month until I'm taking my first trip and maximize that. that year.
Okay.
So that's,
I guess that makes
we
sense.
hope that a lot
so
of
this
those
is based on
are,
it's based on an anniversary date of when you sign up, not a calendar year. Is that the
right.
idea?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Oh, I should have waited to sign up. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Well, no, I mean, did you go live with your listing then, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
Clock's running. Time to go on a trip.
Yeah. That's fine.
Let's go, Mark.
I'm sure we'll use it. And if we get all the other listings,
I got to get an Airbnb. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing out. Yeah.
How many times have I told you?
I got to talk to my wife about maybe re-renting our house out. And we got to get enough houses that we can go somewhere else for free all the time.
Yeah.
Well, Landon
really
has a van maybe
toddlers.
that you could, if he's not using it for painting, you could stay there.
Up. Yeah.
So Landon, there's been, I think it's kind of died down, but talk of, Airbnb bust right after the pandemic when, everybody and their uncle signed up and got a short-term rental and then realized like, oh, this is kind of hard work and there's a lot of saturation now. Obviously you guys are building an app that, it's not solely dependent on Airbnb, but it's the biggest OTA and so on. So like, do you have confidence that Airbnb and short-term rentals are going to continue to be a thing, going to continue to be a big bet? I mean, in the States anyways?
You have a number of things that were tough for Airbnb. I would say like, we were just at this conference I was telling you about, and it's interesting because the global head of policy and communications was there. So he used to work for President Obama. And he made an interesting point that, around this time last year, New York made the decision to shut off all Airbnbs in New York, basically unilaterally. So instantly the listings came down from Airbnb, and Airbnb threatened to sue those who, I don't know exactly. I heard from somebody else that there was letters threatening legal action if there was like noncompliance and stuff like this. So what happened though, and what's interesting, in the thought was, well, if we get rid of Airbnb, or at least the story politically that was told is we're going to wind up with a lot more housing. We're going to have all these solutions. Well, housing's up 7% over last year. Not a single change, a positive change as a result of kicking Airbnb out, and to the detriment of all of the outer communities where people didn't want to stay in the city or, were staying more economically on the outskirts. All of that, it's like he made the point, it's like, do they just not make the trip now because there's not an Airbnb that they can stay at? And I think that's really what's going to happen. And so to answer your question is like, well, policy plays a big part in what happens with Airbnb and all of the short-term rental industry. I think people love to hate on it because it grew fast. People got a little bit of a gold rush mentality going with it, and it's now stabilized back to something that's a lot more realistic in terms of annual, growth rates and things like this. They're getting a little bit more stiff on the competition. So now there's more value for the travelers again. And so I think you're not going to ever, at least I hope things like Airbnb are always in existence. It'll be interesting to see, policy and regulation are the, arthritis of a country. When it starts doing something like this, it's really sad that just the property rights get so abused. And it's really, as an American, I don't know how it is in Canada, but it's like, this is our property.
We have lots of arthritis.
Yeah.
We are so going to use that.
I could barely walk.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's going to be, if there is a death, something like Airbnb, it's going to be because of regulations, not because of market is going to level out. You're going to have the survival of the fittest. The best properties are going to win, and they're going to, thrive. And then those who can't keep up the ratings and reviews and things like that are going to, fizzle out.
The free market decides what's.
And so it's like, what ends up happening is if Airbnb, and what I love about Hostshare particularly is when people use Hostshare, they have a lot more discretionary funds available because they didn't spend it all on the house. And so now they're investing a lot more. There's kind of an interesting, and I felt this myself, it's a little anecdotal, so take it as you will, but we're doing a lot more eating out. We're doing a lot more services around like massage or whatever that we just wouldn't have spent the money on had we not saved, $1,000 on the stay. So I think the more you find ways to put these assets to use like that, and it's going to be just a benefit for everybody. The more you try to regulate it out of existence, the more you're going to suffer the small towns that didn't have much drive to visit before. And things like the Olympics, it's like, I think they're going to house 500,000 people, or no, it's more than that. I can't remember. For the Olympics, Paris, I think, is expected to house an insane number in Airbnbs. And so instead of building a bunch of hotels that then sit empty afterwards, these countries are going to realize we need it. It's such a
use existing infrastructure, and
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I mean, the market adapts too, right? So specifically, we're in the city that I'm in, where we have a lot of listings. They have gone to an owner-occupied model only, so you can only have a short-term rental if you own the property, right? So effectively trying to kill it for investors. Now, I mean,
if you live there, though, not if you own, like, you obviously own it, but
owner-occupied, which means you live there, Brent.
It's a funny distinction.
I'm like, everybody owns it.
Okay, I take it back. Yeah, so you have to. Yeah, it's got to be your principal residence. And so, we do a lot of midterm rentals anyways, which is not subject to that. So that's, that's okay. But what we've seen is more people moving towards Airbnb in their principal residences, because especially where we are, house prices are crazy. You need to have like a duplex just to afford your mortgage.
Pay the mortgage, yeah.
And so it's created an opportunity for homeowners now, like kind of weeding out the competition, right? So if you're a homeowner, there's less competition and more chance for you to get booked in your own place. And, that's just one example. I think the market kind of adapts, and, it's not always good for everybody, especially for investors, but you got to be a little bit flexible in your approach. So, I would tend to agree. I don't think that short-term rentals are going anywhere. They're everything that I've seen for Airbnb, their quarterly numbers, right? I mean, there's seasonal variance, but it's still that chart is still moving up.
It's a healthy growth. Yeah. I mean, it's not 18% like 2021, but it's, it's great. 4 or 5%, I think, average growth for the STR industry. I think places like Scottsdale grew 40% year over year. And you're just like, you just can't expect that you're going to buy a house in Scottsdale at that rate. And then like, it's going to continue for 5 years. It's like, no, you got to understand supply demand a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think a lot of this Airbnb bust stuff came from. People who just entered the market when it was super,
they felt
top
the
of the
pain
market.
the most. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the rates squeezed you too, and all those things are playing a part.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that's business, right? Any business. You have cycles and you got to kind of understand them. So, okay. What are some of your favorite tools for short-term rentals? Do you have any, like a top 5 or something in terms of whether it's software or anything else?
So let's see. I have a lot of friends now, so I got to be careful which ones I would say personally.
This podcast is brought to you by. Start listing them out.
I will say that
Hostshare.
We've started using the Host Co. I think it's host.co. I have to look up there.
Yeah.
But really a cool product there. It's basically, you're able to provide other amenities and services for, right directly to the guest, and then upcharge for some of those things like, late checkout is easy to charge for, all these other little services and things like, you want roses put out before you get there for your anniversary, or, you can do all sorts of different options. So people have some of those things. And really just a great team there too. So I think that's going to continue to be one that we really work with. There's we use Logify personally as our channel manager, but I will say I'm really have come to like this guy, Phil, with Future Stays, and their structure is really cool because if you have 1 to 5 listings, they don't charge for the channel manager. And so usually that's a pretty big expense if you're a small operator to pay for a channel management system. but they're so useful in time savings benefits that you're usually just like, okay, well, I got to do it. And so things like Guesty or Hostaway can be like a 3 or 4 day training with a huge expense associated. Future Stays, I've not used it personally, but I think from a user-friendly standpoint, getting across all the channels, taking advantage of dynamic pricing, things like that, you need a channel manager to do that, and theirs is basically free. So I think that's and I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't use it, but I think it's probably a solid one. And then I would say the only other one comes to mind. Obviously, like we've been using dynamic pricing through Price Labs, and we've had really good results with that. I think we started using it like 8 months ago, and it's fascinating because our season in like Missoula books up a lot earlier, so we're not having to monitor and manage that. It's really just taken care of, and so it's a easy way to maximize value from that. A good team there too as well. So yeah, those are the first one. Oh, and another one that I haven't used, but I think is really cool is Nectar. It's for short-term rental financing. Yeah. Their structure is really unique, and so I haven't used it again, but I think it's one that I would use if I was focused on growing a STR portfolio for sure.
Yeah, I want to get those guys on sometime too. Because that's a fascinating model. So. Okay. Any who do you follow? Do you follow any like influencers, STR influencers? Anybody you recommend?
Yeah, I mean Rob Ilt he's one of the co-hosts of the Bigger Pockets podcast. Rob Abasalo is his name. He's if you just like search YouTube ROBUILT, he's a partner with us, and I think from an engagement standpoint, his audience is one of the best in the industry. I think like people who listen to him really follow him closely, and as a result, he's really got an impressive impact on the community short-term rental.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Okay, I think we're coming to the end of our time here, Landon. But was there anything we didn't cover that you want to cover? Any shout-outs? Anything else?
No, I really appreciate you having on. I really appreciate the questions too. Like, I think it was a little bit more of a deep dive too than a lot of people stay more surface. And I really like the opportunity to share some more of the weed, in the weeds stuff that we don't usually get to talk about. So that's cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're not going to share the weed.
Share the weed, yeah.
Just share the weed, man.
This is that kind of podcast.
Maybe just one thing to go deeper on a slightly different level to wrap up. Like, why are you doing this? Because like you're running a thing, you got some of your family involved. It sounds like you got some Airbnbs. You obviously see the benefit of having a platform to be able to go and travel for free as a host, but like to take on a business and run the development and start partnering with, like, what's driving you guys? Like, why are you doing this? Just
I mean, I'll try to keep it short because I think for me, I was doing fairly well in commercial real estate, and I could see a future for myself where 50 years from now, still doing the same thing, grow a really big business, fund management type of a business. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I realized for me, I really wasn't driven by financial as much as impact. And I think that it's a lot easier to grow, paradoxically, something that's really successful if you're focused on solving a problem that people aren't noticing. And I think when we came across that number, realizing that this is 50% occupancy is insane. Like the utilization rate is so low relative to what's available. It was like, well, if we could solve that problem in a meaningful way, we'll probably take care of ourselves financially, but also enrich the lives. I mean, I think like it's really fun to think about for us. The average family who has an Airbnb is going to be able to take 3 weeks of travel that they probably wouldn't have been able to take. And so it's a really meaningful impact there where you can see like, oh yeah, they're getting time with their kids. They're getting time away from home, and travel is one of the best therapy that you can get. So it's like, it's just a win for everybody, I think. And I think that's really what drives us to to continue building it and improving it for everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Serving others and then giving opportunities to families to build stronger relationships is,
Yeah,
wow.
It feels good. Yeah, it's just fun because people talk about it in their reviews. Like we this is our second time using Hostshare, and we just wanted to always see this area, and it's like, yeah, it's just
we
fun.
would never have been able to do this without the opportunity. Yeah. Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I might buy an Airbnb just for that.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay. I know someone who might be able to help you, Brent.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you two guys a call after this.
We'll help you out.
All right.
One last question, Landon. Could you see extending something like this to the hotel industry? I just had a thought. You could market this to hotels to be like, hey, if you guys all get on board, your employees could you could do swaps for free. I don't know.
My uncle founded a company called Quest in the 90s that sold to JCPenney, right? It was basically Priceline before the internet. But it was like, if you had a membership, you could basically, you could pay, it was like 50% off across the board. So it's funny because, it bears a lot of parallels to what we're doing. But that industry, I would say, is going to be, when you're dealing with private equity and you're dealing with, because most of the hotel industry, you get a lot of this institutional funding going on, and their motivation structures are so different than the individual, and it's a sad thing in some cases. I think I don't want to bag on PE because it's done a lot of good things as well, but it certainly isn't going to provide the motivation structure to solve the problems in the way that benefit the owners in the way that Hostshare does. And so, but cars is one that I think, there's such a better way, because what happens is people go and fly to go somewhere. You always need a car, and
there's like hundreds of cars sitting at the airport parking lot all the time.
Yeah,
can't you just use those ones?
That's what I'm saying. Like, why can't they rent out my truck while I'm on a trip? I don't care. I just bring a car that they can use as stock. And those, or why can't we have a car in the Airbnb when we get there so that we can go use it and stuff? And I'm a pilot, so we're always trying to struggle with courtesy cars at airports, and it's just like basically insurance isn't a problem, but for decades you would just show up and hop in and there'd be a key in the ignition and you just roll out, and I just think that so that's definitely one I think is going to be important to solve too.
So maybe a partnership with Turo coming up.
Yeah, but I think again you need to find a way to share the cars where you don't have to pay, because we all have cars with way excess capacity. Why do we have to pay for it when we go somewhere else? Like, just better utilize these things,
Yeah.
All right.
Well, lots of opportunity on the horizon, anyways.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much again.
Well, thank you so much, Landon. How can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to?
LinkedIn. I'm on. So Landon Wilkinson on there is probably the best. I'm not huge on social media, but I respond. So hit me up.
Okay, or just go to is it Hostshare?
Hostshare.co is the .co.
Yeah. Hostshare.co. So we'll link that.
We'll put that all in the show notes.
In the show notes. So awesome, man. Thank you so much for being on with us. We learned a lot, and look forward to working more with you guys.
Hey, likewise, guys. Thank you so much, and sorry I was a little behind getting here.
That's all good.
No worries.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Thanks for listening, folks, and until next time,
steward your wealth wisely. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Two Stewards Show. If you like my voice better, click subscribe.
And if you like my voice better, click share.
If you like both, give us a 5-star rating.
To interact with the show, feel free to reach out at hello@twostewards.ca.
We'll see you in the next episode. In the meantime, steward your wealth wisely.